In this edition of Southern Newsweek, Invercargill boy Charlie Johnson sets up a business selling a new type of milkshake. Ghost soldiers walk Dunedin streets in memory of Passchendaele. A leading public health specialist says Dunedin's new hospital will not be a magic panacea. Hi, I'm Melissa Barton. A new raw milk business just north of Invercargill officially opened 3 weeks ago. The business is already getting a shake-up thanks to a 9-year-old entrepreneur, Charlie Johnson. Sharon Rees has more.
With the vending machine installed, Farm Fresh South has been getting a steady flow of customers keen to try their unpasteurised raw milk. But for those who enjoy sweeter tasting milk, Charlie Johnson has just the answer. Charlie has turned his holiday boredom into a money-making opportunity.
I was bored inside, so I came up with an idea to make milkshakes for the holidays to earn some money.
Yeah, and how's that been going?
Pretty good.
And how much money do you think you've made so far?
Over 100.
Charlie's table is in the same shed as the vending machine, so that when customers purchase their fresh milk at a small extra cost, he will make them a milkshake of their choice. Owner of Farm Fresh South and Charlie's father Logan Johnson says the business has been flourishing since opening.
We've had a really strong response, heaps of people coming out, and we did a promo in our first week for $1 a litre actually, and almost sold out 3 days in a row. So it's been going pretty good, and we're steady the rest of the time, yeah.
And there's no mistaking what he thinks of Charlie's milkshakes.
Brilliant, best milkshakes in Southland.
And after their first taste, these young customers said they hoped they'd be back for more of Charlie's milkshakes. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
The ceremony was held in Dunedin on Wednesday to recognise 25 Dunedin women who helped the people of Belgium during the First World War. The South Today was there.
A ceremony held at Andersons Bay Cemetery Chapel included the Belgian ambassador to New Zealand, His Excellency Mr. Mark Mully, commemorating the Queen Elizabeth Medal recipients who had come from Dunedin.
We would like to express our gratitude and honour the service of New Zealand during World War I. 25 of the Queen Elizabeth Medal recipients were from the Dunedin area, and this cluster has been the focus of the restoration efforts so far.
The medals were awarded to women who provided financial, material or medical assistance to Belgians in World War I. Of the 33 New Zealand women who received this medal, 25 came from Dunedin. The Belgian embassy in Australia worked with New Zealand authorities to identify the New Zealand women. They subsequently located the women's descendants in order to restore the graves of the medal recipients and place plaques acknowledging their contribution to Belgium. Most of the 25 Dunedin women now lie in local cemeteries, including 6 at Andersons Bay. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
And still on the topic of World War I, ghost soldiers walked the streets of Dunedin last Saturday in recognition of the Battle of Passchendaele 100 years ago. The South Today found out more.
If they looked spooky, that was the intent. These ghost soldiers walked through the malls along Dunedin's main street, not speaking to anyone, quietly handing out bereavement cards, each one carrying the name of one of the Otago soldiers from amongst the 1,176 New Zealanders who died 100 years ago in the mud of Passchendaele in France.
Just wonderful. My husband's great uncle was one, so I thought I might have got his name. I've got a man from Otago.
Organiser Lieutenant Colonel Amanda Jane Brosnan said the live-action tribute was inspired by experiences of bereaved families at the time.
This concept was based around the stories that came back at the time of people seeing their dead relatives in the streets of their town, their village, whatever, these ghosts of the soldiers who had died. So that whole ghost soldiers idea is what we're trying to portray. So these are people from another dimension, another world. They're not interacting with the living people around them. They're just here, just being, and just wandering through the streets.
The people playing the ghost soldiers came from a mixture of contemporary soldiers and local actors. Second Lieutenant Daniel Ledley Palmer said they could see there was a difference in comprehension between generations of public.
Some people were actually quite moved by it. The sort of older generation came up to me and talked about how their relatives, fathers, grandfathers, had fought in that war specifically Passchendaele. And then there was sort of a naivety from some of the younger ones, so it was good to sort of introduce them to that kind of idea, especially since it's the 100th anniversary.
Tapanui military historian Dr. Aaron Fox supplied the majority of the uniforms from his personal collection. Ledley Palmer did notice the rugged wool garments were different to modern clothes.
It was a bit itchy, but it's raining out there, so it was a bit warmer than something else I could have worn.
The Ghost Soldiers concept was inspired by a similar one held in Britain for those who died in the Somme. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
A photography exhibition in Invercargill is showcasing missed opportunities in the community. After some professional lessons, Aurora College pupils hit the streets to capture the empty spaces, bare alleyways and broken playgrounds for the opportunities in our community project. Sharon Rees has more.
From questioning the motives of a locked school gate to imagining a blank wall as an empty canvas, Aurora College pupils have identified a myriad of missed opportunities within their community. The task was given to them by Sports Southland's Connecting Communities advisor Gareth Scott, who says the pupils have a knack for seeing what is easily missed.
I've spent 6 hours walking around this community with these kids, and every time I went around I found something new. So they just took it in their stride, and they find things that we can't find as adults to point out. We always see stuff at this level, and the youth just see it at a completely different level to us.
Year 9 pupil Lachlan Sears says the areas he visited were full of potential.
We ended up using these photos to represent that life's journey is full of potential, and there are hundreds of things that we can do in areas like this, and if we just open our mind to it, then things can just happen.
He said he was amazed by the opportunities highlighted by other pupils.
I love them, they're great, and I don't just say that about mine. Every piece of art here is amazing, and it took a lot of effort.
Friends and family were invited to the opening of the exhibition on Tuesday, where pupils were recognised for their efforts. Sharon Rees, The South Today.
The Public Health Association doesn't believe Dunedin's new hospital will be a magic panacea. A leading public health specialist says healthcare is a much wider picture than just bricks and mortar. Daryl Baser has the story.
Both major political parties have promised a significant upgrade of Dunedin Hospital, citing a need for it to be improved. The Public Health Association agrees a new hospital is needed, but says buildings only help with a small percentage of the nation's health needs.
But actually, the new hospital won't make much difference, if any, at all, to the health of the people of the Southern District and of Dunedin. And that's the key thing we want to focus on. So there's a lot of talk in the health sector at the moment around reducing demand on healthcare services, and there's a lot of effort being put in place to re-engineer the system, it's been called. So look at how patients come into contact with healthcare services and how healthcare services can be more efficient in dealing with them.
Reid says a more holistic approach is needed, as a greater percentage of health relates to how the population lives.
Because if you've got a healthy population, you have a less demand for health services in the first place. So our emphasis is very much on working to build health in the population, in the community, at the same time as addressing illness. We're not saying we don't need a new hospital, we do, but we're saying that that's not about health, that's about treating illness and disease.
He says hospitals are responsible for only 10% of the well-being of a population, with a much larger slice of the equation dependent on the bigger picture.
And then about 40% of the health of communities is dictated by what's called social economic factors. So those are things like, how are our communities organised? How easy is it to make friends, to connect with those around us? Do you feel safe on the streets? Do you feel safe using the environment around you? And so it's really important that those are not within the control of the health sector. So it's really important that local and national government are on board with this and understand the important role that they have in creating health where we live, learn, work and play.
Speaking on behalf of the Otago Southland branch of the Public Health Association, Dr. Keith Reid is a public health specialist with many years in the field. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Coming Coming up after the break, our Balclutha farm shed goes up in smoke and the America's Cup trophy goes on tour around the South Island. A fire engulfed a shed on Wilson Road near Glen Oamaru in the Catlins last week. Fire services were alerted at about 4 p.m. and 4 appliances were sent from Balclutha, plus a tanker from Owaka. However, the shed was a collapsed heap of rubble by the time fire services arrived, with the remnants of the blaze being brought under control in a matter of minutes. Balclutha Station Officer Mike Harris says no animals or people were injured in the fire, although he thought a rat or fly might find themselves homeless. It was a case of being in the right place at the right time for a Dunedin dog who made his last rescue last Sunday. Huntaway Cross Finn was just hours into retirement when he was called on to help search for 3 students lost in thick fog on Mount Cargill.
12-year-old Landsar rescue dog Finn has finally retired after completing one last job. He ended his career on Sunday night, finding 3 lost students on Mount Cargill.
Finbar's been a search and rescue dog for the past, an operational search and rescue dog for the past 7 years.
Finn's owner, Dermot Mayick, says the 12-year-old dog was involved in the retrieval of 3 bodies and finding countless missing people, but has started to slow down.
There's a lot of hard work goes into that beforehand, getting the dog up to searching a couple of our areas and getting the fitness up for both dog and handler to be able to handle that terrain.
Mayick and Finn spent about 5 weeks searching in a team for Israeli woman Liat Oken, eventually discovering her backpack, which led to the discovery of her body. Finn then helped search for and recover the body of missing Dunedin man Stephen Lowe. Finn will continue his day job as an assistant dog at the School of Veterinary Nursing. Roselle Lebone, The South Today.
The America's Cup has been sailing around southern regions over the week. The yachting world's top prize has been enchanting crowds in Oamaru, Timaru, Wanaka and eventually made it to Bluff. Daryl Baser tracked the Old Mug's southern tour.
The America's Cup is truly New Zealand's Cup, as it's currently on a tour of the South Island. Over the past few days, the Old Mug has been to Timaru, Oamaru, Wanaka and is today in the deep south. In Timaru, hundreds of residents gathered at the Yacht and Powerboat Club to see the America's Cup in all its well-polished glory and to meet members of Emirates Team New Zealand. In Oamaru, the Commodore of the North Otago Yacht Club says the organisation and town appreciated the visit.
I think it is because we're a small town and this will be so good for our kids and the growth in our sailing here now. And it's quite a special time. You know, I saw some of the kids' faces that do sail here and man, they're just over the moon.
His sentiments are shared by his daughters, who were responsible for getting Emirates Team New Zealand to bring the trophy to Oamaru.
So we made a video towards ETNZ and hoped that they would come down here, and they have.
Did you ever expect them to, or was it sort of like one of those?
No, not to Oamaru.
Team New Zealand veteran of 8 America's Cup campaigns, Curly Salthouse, says they're pleased to bring the Cup around to young sailors.
You know, it's important that, you know, for the future of the Cup and for the future of sailing, that we get these young kids into it early and get them excited about sailing. And it doesn't matter what they're sailing, it's just about getting them out on the water and doing it.
From Oamaru, the Cup and entourage travelled across to Wanaka, where about 250 people took photos, before the Cup moved to the Wakatipu Yacht Club later in the afternoon. The Cup was in Invercargill and Bluff today, before heading back north. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
A Dunedin pensioner in North East Valley is still waiting for progress to be made to rectify the damage from a landslip 3 months ago. The South Today found out more.
Dunedin resident Jenny Findlater had the surrounds of her Montague Street home engulfed by trees from a landslip during the July floods. As the mud swept down the hill, trees blocked the front doorway of her house.
I was just sitting here about 5:30 on the Saturday night, and I heard this massive cracking going on next door here. I didn't know at first what it was until just up in here I see all the trees coming towards me. So I shot inside the house and I rang my son, and I said it's just a massive slip, and came back out and had a look, and as luck would have it, it seemed to just stop right here, but this is what I've been left with.
Geotechnicians have warned against removing a tree leaning against her house because its roots are holding back the rest of the land, and removal could put the property at greater risk. While she is now allowed back in, she is still struggling to receive a payout for repairs to her house.
I just had a call from the insurance today, and they said that EQC has to stabilise the land before I can get the trees down for them to do the spouting and everything. So, are we back to square one again?
The DCC said that an assessment showed the risk of further landslip was low. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Coming up after the break, rainbow runs are celebrated in Oamaru and Alexandra, and youngsters get to plant 100 native trees near Queenstown. Rainbow runs were held around the region recently as a way of fundraising and getting the community together. The South Today got amongst the action and tried not to get hit with flying coloured dye.
The racecourse just north of Oamaru was the location on Saturday for the annual Rainbow Confectionery Run, which had about 600 entrants pelted with coloured dye. Sport Waitaki coordinator Rhiannon McLean said the race was to raise funds to provide children with sports equipment.
The colour run is kind of loosely based on the religious festival in India, Holi, which is like a really colourful festival where they throw coloured powders and stuff around, and it's really awesome, super colourful and fun. So we've kind of taken that concept and brought it here to Oamaru with the Rainbow Run. There's colour runs all over the place, but this is specifically the Rainbow Run, and it's a Sport Otago event that happens in Oamaru, Dunedin, Balclutha and Alexandra. And here in Oamaru as well, it's a fundraiser for the Sporting Chance charity, which is a locally administered charity which gives money to kids for sports gear where finances are a barrier to them participating in sport.
And in Alexandra, a similar event was held over the weekend as well. Back in Oamaru, Youth Council member Joel said the event helped bond the community.
What we do is we just get involved in events like this around the community and do good stuff around the community to improve the life of the community pretty much. And things like this was really fun to get into. Get pretty dirty sometimes, but yeah, it's good fun.
Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
Thank you. Cheers to that.
Thunder and lightning didn't deter thousands of people from attending the annual Vogel Street party. Numbers were slightly down on last year's crowd of 15,000.
Stilt walkers, silent discos and the South Today's own Daryl Baser were just some of the attractions at this year's Vogel Street party. The heavens opened shortly after the 3 p.m. start, which didn't stop hardy Dunedinites from having a good time. Stages hosting 48 different acts, stalls and food were offered outdoors, and the public was also offered a glimpse inside some of the historic buildings in the Vogel Street precinct. Fewer old buildings were open to the public this year, as more are currently being redeveloped. For the first time, lanterns from Dunedin's Midwinter Carnival were on display. The entry fee to the party will be used to help find a permanent space to display the lanterns. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
Queenstown's Remarkables primary school students were busy planting 100 native trees earlier this week with the support of the Wakatipu Reforestation Trust and Project Crimson. New Zealand celebrity chef Josh Emmett was there to help. Mina Amso has more.
10-year-old Remarkables primary student Kieran Bleefley packing in the soil around a small broadleaf native tree he planted with his schoolmates.
Oh, it's really cool and fun.
He and other 170 students got their hands dirty planting 100 native trees including kowhai, koprosma, totara and flax in a small site near the school and Lake Wakatipu. The planting idea began 4 years ago when conservation charity Project Crimson partnered with Rata, a Queenstown restaurant owned by celebrity chef Josh Emmett. Emmett finds planting rather satisfying, much like being a chef.
When you are a chef, there's certain things that you make, whether it's a baker who likes to bake bread or a chef who loves to work with meat or fish or whatever, but you get a product in the end that you get huge satisfaction out of seeing the end result.
Project Crimson manager Melanie Seifert says the planting is pretty magical.
Through this planting, kids can come down here, they can develop numeracy and literacy skills, they can learn about the local landscape, learn about the local trees, learn about bird life, insect life, and really just become guardians of this amazing area.
And the students also enjoyed planting in the warm weather.
Yeah, pretty dirty, but it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with getting dirty. So.
Principal Debbie Dixon says the students are hoping to attract more native birds to the school as a result.
You can hear and see the buzz and the excitement of, it's a real bubbly atmosphere, which is just fantastic.
Dixon says the new cultural garden will get 200 more native plants over the next 2 years. And students will be guardians of the site, taking care of it with a little guidance from the experts. Mina Amso, The South Today.
And following on with the green theme, a vertical garden is the latest addition to Dunedin's Jetty Street. The Dunedin City Council has almost finished a $500,000 project to transform the area, adding cycle racks and bluestone paving recycled from old cattle yards.
Oasis Greenery Systems Manager Darren Rice has been adding small havens of nature to Dunedin's concrete jungle. Rice has been overseeing the installation of a green wall style vertical garden in Jetty Street.
So our company specialises in the provision of the natural environment where it's been taken out by the urban development. So here we're putting in a small living wall.
The space under and beside the Jetty Street overbridge in the heart of the warehouse precinct is a landscape of concrete, asphalt and steel. Rice says what he is doing is providing a vertical element in a horizontal situation.
We're providing a natural habitat for the pollinators, for the bees and the birds, and we're bringing all that back into the urban development. This is really important, and there's a lot of interest right throughout the country for what we're doing. And we also provide living roofs as well to also further enhance the natural urban environment.
The garden is being set up on stern plates from the ship Te Whaka, built in Glasgow 107 years ago. The bow of the ship hides a control panel that runs an automatic watering system. Jetty Street will have 3 small green walls made with planter boxes. Rice expects the wall to be finished in time for tomorrow's annual Vogel Street party. Roselle Labone, The South Today.
And finally, the Northern Catlins area is now home to a beautifully restored school bus. However, the service offered by the bus these days is more aimed at adults. The South Today took a look.
Dunedin residents may remember the iconic Captain Cook Tavern bus that was in use prior to the tavern's closure in 2013. Well, that bus has now been lavishly restored to its original state by new owner Lyndon McNabb.
Most of it was aluminium, so it wasn't too bad, but the front end where all the metal work is had a fair bit of rust in it, and we had to replace this entire panel here with a whole new bit.
The restored 1960 school bus is now part of Lyndon and Jade McNabb's wedding venue business at Kaka Point, and the colour scheme ties in with the fact that their wedding venue is a former schoolhouse.
After much debate, we decided on going back to the original Department of Education colours that they came out with when they were built here in this one, 1957.
The bus is available for hire to ferry wedding parties around the Kaka Point area, as well as for other functions. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
That's all from us this week. You can go online and check us out on Facebook and Twitter, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, and thanks for watching.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.